Hello everybody, it's Howard the Teaserking coming to you again with week 5 of college football. I mistakenly posted week 4 of the pros in for week 5 of college. I apologize for that. The play is Washington and the Air Force. I don't know what happened. I kind of redid a couple. Sometimes in the middle it's like, no, I don't want to bring that up, or I don't want to go in that direction, so I delete it and I do another one. So I did 2 college and 2 pros yesterday, and apparently I deleted my both colleges and not both pros, so I'm redoing this one. Basically, let's get to the root. I got to get back into Teaserking mindset here. But I was talking about the locks. I'm 4-0 my last 4 college locks. Last week hitting the Navy and hitting Georgia Tech, both option type of run teams against weak defenses. And that's really what the method has been, to try to figure out. Everybody knows Alabama and Florida State and Ohio State, but do you know Navy and Cincinnati and Georgia Tech, when to play them and when not? And I've tried to explain, like when Army plays Tulane and Army plays Navy and Navy plays Tulane, the similar offenses, they're usually under games, as the Army under was last week, because they practice that offense. And the only way to beat a Navy is you have to understand the offense and practice against it. Ohio State does good against it because they do a spread offense. So for them, they kind of have a feel for it. Michigan did good against an Air Force because they kind of understood it also. But, teams that haven't seen it, Georgia Tech, Pitt's got a weak defense this year. So that's really what I'm looking at. When they play a non-running team, you tend to, the running team just pounds it down your throat. You can see South Florida kind of doing that with Quentin Flowers, although they can pass it well. But you see these running teams and they get rolling, and once you got them beat, they don't know how to defend it. They just keep scoring. That's the beauty of like Navy and when they get rolling, or Air Force or Georgia Tech, and the other team can't defend it. They keep scoring because they're just running the ball anyway, and they break the runs. So anyway, that's the lessons I try to teach. Let's see. So let's get into this week. Looking at weak defenses, I've come up with Washington playing Oregon State. Let's get into the numbers. Why do I like this game? Well, Washington's a very strong team. They get 44 points on offense a game. They give up 11. Now, this is per games. So it's like the average of the games, not total. So Washington averages 44 and averages giving up 11. Oregon State scores 24 a game but gives up 47. So I have a team that gives up 47. And Washington State's still scoring on them, and so is Minnesota. They just keep lighting it up. So Washington scores a lot, so that's perfect. That's what you want. It's hard, like a team that doesn't score a lot really isn't going to take advantage of a team that gives up 47. So you need especially laying 20 and 30 points. So you need a strong offense, which you have with Washington. Good quarterback in Browning, good running back in Gaskin, good defense, giving up 11, 12 a game on average. Add that the quarterback, Jake Luton, is out. He's not playing. He's out. He's not questionable or probable, which then leaves you with a backup, and their backup has thrown 1 pass. He's 1 of 1. So I'm not worried about him unless they bring in some new freshmen, and then who knows. But I'm sure Washington's prepared for everything, and they got a great defense. So here comes a team that scores 44 a game going against this weak defense. So there's no way Oregon State's going to stop Washington. Washington's going to put up I'd say 50 points. My guess on this game was 52-3. Oregon State, where are they going to score? They don't have their quarterback. Their running game averages 135 a game. So that's not going to scare Washington. Their defense isn't going to stop Washington. This is what you look for. You're playing a good team against a team with a crap defense. Your upsets happen when the good defensive team shuts down the good offense. That's how like a Temple beats the Navy or something. You know, they just shut you down and then you can't do anything. In this situation, you got Washington who's just going to light it up. And Oregon State's not going to be able to keep up. The spread I had was 26 and a half. So you chop it down to 20 and a half, keeping it under 21. And this is why you shop. Some places it's 26, some places it's 27 or 27 and a half. It's key to get under that 21. But I don't think it's going to matter here because you're looking at a 50-point win, not a 21-22 nail-biter. You know, they're right at the number. That's when a team has a good quarterback and a good offense but a weak defense, and they kind of get those late scores. But I don't see Oregon State doing that here. So you're laying 20, 21. You know, should be covered midway in the third quarter. They'll just keep, Washington will keep scoring. The beauty of the playoff, Washington can't afford to let down and lose this game. See, that's the difference. Before, they could lose it and they'll go to the Rose Bowl and, who knows what happens. Now, they got to play Washington State. They got to play Stanford. They got to play Oregon. I don't know who they play from the other division, if it's USC or UCLA or Utah. They're probably going to have some tough game in there. So there's 3 or 4 real strong games. So they can't lose this game and then worry about the next game. They can't lose them both. So that's basically what's happened. So Washington, it's really a must-win game. And that's the thing in college. They play 12 games, so they need to, maybe it's 13, but I think it's 12. And so they really need, they want to win anyway, right? But they can't. Sometimes they let down, and they, Wisconsin's famous for that. They'll play like Georgia State and win, 30-15, and they're laying 35 points, and they really don't try. Excuse me. So that's what you have with that. But here you don't have that. There should be no letdown on the road, so they actually have less players traveling, which means the better players are traveling. So even when they bring in the backups, they're good players wanting playing time. So take Washington, lay the 20-21 to a very weak defense at Oregon State. Second game, New Mexico and the Air Force. New Mexico is laying 1.5. At the time I did the video, they were laying 1.5. I think it's even now. I like the Air Force getting points. The Air Force in 7 is good. They're a live dog. The trend is New Mexico as a home favorite is 8-1 against since 2015. So anytime they're the home favorite, if you bet against them, they don't cover. You've got the Air Force playing Michigan and San Diego State, 2 very good teams, much better than New Mexico. They played San Diego State. They had them beat. San Diego State scored a late touchdown and lost 28-24 Air Force, but they played them well, and they run the ball. And Michigan runs the ball, and New Mexico runs a very similar offense to the Air Force. So where New Mexico might pound a lesser team, that's not used to their offense, Air Force is used to it. Air Force also throws the ball better than New Mexico, so you have that little balance. So that's where Air Force, if they do get down, can score. Let's look at the numbers. Air Force scores 33 a game, and that's pretty good considering they played both Michigan and San Diego State, 2 very strong defenses, and they've given up 19 a game. And New Mexico scores 24 and has given up 21. And the 24, and they played New Mexico State. I know they didn't play anybody the level of Michigan and San Diego State, so they don't really have this strong offense. I got their quarterback sort of an option quarterback, sort of like Air Force. The Air Force runs for 287 a game. Again, it's very impressive against Michigan and San Diego State, where New Mexico only runs for 243 a game. Neither of them really throw for much more than 100 yards. So what you have is two strong running teams, but I like the stronger defense in Air Force should make them a very live dog here. And if the spread goes Air Force -1, because I can see it's moving that way, I'd still take the Air Force as long as you're getting more than, getting 3.5 or 4. They were getting 2 or 1.5, I believe. So I'd bet it plus 7.5. But still take them at more than a field goal if it goes too far by the time I do the video and the time the bet goes. I still think Air Force wins the game. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be like 24-21, 24-23. I don't see with New Mexico's, they don't score a lot blowing them out, and Air Force, the way they hang in there with San Diego State, Michigan, they need the game. It's at New Mexico, but Air Force plays on the mountains anyway. So that won't hurt them at all. Like I said, New Mexico is a weak home favorite. Let's look at them as a home dog. Just excuse me. New Mexico. One second. Let's see. New Mexico as a home dog is 4-1, 2-3 against. So they're a little better as a home dog. As a home favorite, they're 7-1 against. And the Air Force, they're 4-4 as a road favorite, 6-2 against. But even as a road dog, they're not that strong. But I'm not really looking on the trends that much in this game. I just think Air Force is a good dog, so you can get them as the dog or a slight favorite. I think they're still a good play there. I just think they're a much better team than New Mexico, having played Michigan and San Diego State, and I like them getting the points. Let me go through a few trends for you. Here's some big trends. This goes back to, I go back all the way to 2009, but in college, I know with the graduations, it's hard to really use that old data because of the things, but all the graduations. But I am looking for, this team is still very good, even though they've had the graduation in this role, and that's what it's all about. So, like here's certain. Let's look at certain trends here. Clemson 11-2 is a road favorite. They're a road favorite against Virginia Tech this week. Colorado 8-0 is a home favorite. I'm not going to say all of them. Georgia's 8-1 is a road favorite. Iowa 11-2 is a home favorite, and 7-1 is a road favorite. The one I like is Penn State. Penn State's 13-1 is a home favorite, and they are a home favorite this week. And South Florida 8-0 is a home favorite. 7-1 is a road favorite, 23-4 overall. That's my boys. I like betting South Florida. They score a lot, and their defense is better with Strong, I think. Let's see some others. Wisconsin 9-1 is a road favorite, 24-6 overall. Washington State 9-2 is a home favorite. It's funny, the desert teams tend to be really good at home and really weak on the road. But I don't even see them. Arizona State's nothing. Arizona's a road dog bet against 7-1. Arizona State bet against 10-1. And I believe you got Arizona State as a road dog to Stanford this week. So again, that's a 91% trend. Boise bet against as a home favorite, 13-1 as a bet against home favorite. Virginia kicked their butt last week as Boise was a home favorite. They're not like they used to be when they had Kellen Moore. Connecticut bet against, road dog, 10-1. Fresno State, bet against, is a road dog, 13-2. I mean, they're just, Illinois, bet against, is a road dog, 9-1. Kentucky, bet against on the road, bet against at home, 13-1. 6-1 is the favorite, 7-0 is the home dog. But if you bet against them at home, 13-1. See, this makes gambling more fun when you are not playing 50-50, you're playing 90% trends. North Carolina State, bet against them at home, 13-0. 9-0 when they're the favorite, 4-0 when they're the dog. New Mexico, bet against is the home favorite, 7-1. I know it goes to 9-1 the next time. There's an interesting one. Penn State at home as a favorite is 13-1. However, as a road dog, if you bet against Penn State, it's 6-1. So when they go to Ohio State and Michigan as a dog, they lose. You don't want to tease them, you go against them. But at home, when they're playing the weaker teams, they kill them. So they're 13-1. So this is what I mean by team psychology. Depending where you are and what your role is in the game depends the way the team plays. So Penn State at home, and they're favored, they kill. They go on the road and they play Ohio State and Michigan or Wisconsin, and they don't play well. Now they did get the W, well, against USC. They did that. That would have been you would have won betting against them as a road dog, and against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, they were a road dog, and that's the one loss. That's the 6-1. So they're getting better with this team as a road dog. So you got to keep that in mind. Also, you got to look at the personnel if it changes, like I said, due to graduation. But that's what you're looking for. Purdue, bet against, is a home dog, 11-2. There's this monster trend after monster trend here. Texas State. You wonder why I play against Texas State and San Jose State and everything. Texas State, bet against, is a road dog, 11-1. Overall, bet against, 20-4. So if you just bet against Texas State, the last 24 games, you won 20. You lost 4, 83%. So this is why sometimes I bet the smaller teams, is because I'm looking at these trends. They can't handle being road dogs. I mean, Penn State has a hard time with it. Here you got, let's see, Utah State, bet against, 7-1. UTEP, bet against, road dog, 12-1. So you can see why, who's UTEP playing? Boom, I'm betting them. It's just because when they go on the road, they have no backbone. They're not a good team, and the teams that go on the road aren't, and you're the dog, you're obviously not that good, and they're not capable of pulling the upset, or very rarely. Unless they're playing a team with a big number and the quarterback gets hurt, pretty much they're going to lose. So that's a sample, and I hope I didn't go too fast. If I did, we're on video, just redo it. But that's what I look for. Those are from 2015, so those are the last 25 games. So that's with this year's class. So yeah, graduations happen, but usually if the coach is still there, these trends hold up. It's when the coach, okay, UTEP fires their coach, here comes a new guy, and now you got to get used to him. So then you kind of lay back. So that's what I'm doing with, Baylor's got Matt Rule from Temple. Well, it's apples and oranges. He had this great defense. Now he's got no defense in the Baylor offense, and he doesn't know what to do with it. So you got to watch the coach. You got, Lane Kiffin at Florida Atlantic. You got Butch Davis at Florida International. It's so weird. They're such good coaches, and then they can't get it. They got to go work at Florida Atlantic and Florida International. And what are they going to do with it? I mean, it's a joke. Anyway, so those are some of the trends, and let me get into one other stat with you that I find to be very telling. And like I explained, I'm trying to bet against weak defenses. I think that's the key to college, because you can have a running attack, you can have a passing attack, you can run a Navy wishbone, you can run with Kansas State has Jesse Ertz where he's running the ball, but he can throw the ball, so you got more balance. And then you got Mason Rudolph at Oak State where he's dropping back, throwing the ball, and then Justin Hill runs it. So you have different options to teams. So what I'm looking for are the weak defenses because there's enough different styles of offense that can hurt these teams. So I'm going to quickly go through defenses that give up more than 35 a game. Baylor 37, Kansas 39, North Texas 35, UTEP 47, Charlotte 35, Missouri 40, Georgia Southern 38, Louisiana Lafayette 53. But they score 41. They're a great over team, actually, because they're going to give up a ton. But if you play anybody with a good offense, it'll go over. Like Louisiana Monroe went to 106. Louisiana Monroe 38. Toledo surprisingly gave up 35, but they played Tulsa, who put up 50 on them, and they played last week. Miami put up a 50 on them. But in the MAC, and this is the difference in college, when they, Toledo's going to play Miami. I don't know what for, but now they got Ball State and Kent State and Buffalo and these, weaker teams. They're going to kill them. So that's what you're looking for, and you've got to understand it in the stats. Their 35 is not a real 35, but when they play Kent State, who scores 11 a game, I would expect Toledo to win by 35 points there. Bowling Green gives up 35. Kent State gives up 37. In the WAC, now this is surprising. Utah State 32, Hawaii 34, San Jose State 45, UNLV 37, and Nevada 35. You got 5 crap defenses there. And then you got like San Diego State giving up 19. But you really don't have that many. The highest scoring team in the league is UNLV at 35. So they're an over team. They score 35 and give up 37. But there's really not that explosive team to take advantage of like San Jose State or some of the other teams. Hawaii plays Colorado State this week. So Hawaii gives up 34, but they score 30. Colorado State only gives up 23, and they score 30. But keep in mind, they played Alabama. That's going to hurt their average, and I think they still did okay against Alabama. So they're going to see Hawaii, and just their eyes are going to light up going, oh, this is a lot different than Alabama. So, look for Colorado State this week. UCLA is giving up 43, and I don't understand that. You got Jim Mora. Apparently isn't that good of a coach. I mean, just because he coaches in the NFL, that's a shot. How does he have a team, coach a team, and he's a defensive coach that's giving up 43. I assume the whole defense is injured, but still, it's a good team to go against. 43, even with Rosen, they score 45. Another great over team. And when they played Memphis, who's a great over team, you could see they got in the 80s. Oregon State, as I've talked, 47, and Arizona State 37. Like last week, Oregon played Arizona State. It was a great over game because Arizona State scores 34, and they're better at home. And then Oregon's putting up 50. So that's why I played Oregon last week. I'm looking at Arizona State's giving up all these points. And Oregon's playing decent teams. They're not playing junior high teams. Memphis gives up 35. Tulsa 42. East Carolina 51. They're my pet this year that I keep pounding against them. I think I had West Virginia against them and Virginia Tech, and they both covered easy. And it's just they have terrible defense. Pitt 37. North Carolina 33. Boston College, who's usually a strong defensive team, giving up 34. So this is why you've got to look at the stats. Because if you would just think Boston College, like last year, they were an under team. You couldn't move on them. You get 10 points, but they didn't score. They had no quarterback. Now, the defensive coordinator goes to Michigan, and all of a sudden, Boston College is giving up 34. They're not an under team anymore. They're a go-against team. And what I mean by that is They score 50 in a game, they give up 34. You never want to bet on Boston College. And if you got a good offense, they're gonna light up Boston College. And I mean Vanderbilt, it was Wake Forest who blew them out. Wake's they're averaging 37 a game. They're better. See, when you look at the stats, you go, wow, Wake Forest 37 a game gives up 11. They're not that weak offense that they always been. But you got to look at the stats to see teams are different. Now Pitt usually averages 40. He's only scoring 20 a game. So this is where you get your bets. You're going, I locked Georgia Tech against Pitt because Pitt scores 20 and gives up 37. And Georgia Tech scores 37, gives up 23. And when I looked at the history, I think Georgia Tech had either beaten them both last 2 years or one of the last two. And I knew Pitt had a really good team last year, and you could see their quarterback's terrible this year. So I knew Georgia Tech would take the lead. Pitt's not coming back with their quarterback. So that was the key to it, is basically getting that matchup where you got a good offense against a weak defense. They're going to run it up. And then the question is, the other team really doesn't score that much, and what's the point spread? And as I say, the point spread makes the game. When I saw that point spread at 7, and I got to lay 1 with Georgia Tech against Pitt, that's why it was the lock. And it's one thing I'm noticing is the line movements. That line moved from 7.5. I announced it, went up to 9.5. And I'm noticing when I put my videos out, or I post my bets, all of a sudden that line jumps with me. And it goes up to 9.5, and I'm going, okay. But then near game time, it was down to 7.5. And I'm thinking, who in their right mind would bet Pitt at, okay, maybe if it was over 10, but at 9, at 8, you're taking Pitt against Georgia Tech. The same thing happened with my other lock, Navy against Cincinnati. Navy was 11. I locked them last week. It drops all the way down, I think, to 7.5 or 8. And I'm thinking, who in their right mind? Okay, at 10.5, I could maybe see it, but why are you jumping on Cincinnati? They're not a good team. Then it drops to 9 and 8. Now, why in the world at 8 are you taking Cincinnati against Navy? I thought that was just ridiculous. So I'm really scratching my head on these line movements, going, not only are they going against my locks, which that's never happened to me, but I'm seeing, and my locks are winning. So it's like, now I'm wondering who's making these bets and what are they looking at that's creating. I'm looking for mismatches, right? Navy's going to kill Cincinnati, and they had them by 18, and since you scored a late touchdown, the Navy ended at the 2-yard line, so it could have been 18. And I'm like, what are you seeing that's driving you to bet Cincinnati? So it's just, you used to watch the money and go, oh, the big shots know what's going on. They're in on the fix. But now they're going the other way and they're losing. And I'm going, something's funny's going on, that they're going the other way. And then I'm winning. They're getting killed. And I'm talking a lot of money. To move a line from 11.5 to 7.5 in the Navy game, you're talking $1 million, maybe $2 million. Who, they just got $2 million to lose? I'd like to meet these people. Same thing with Georgia Tech. That line moved 9.5 to 7.5. And the other thing you got to realize in a teaser, so you might see the line moving, but again, I'm thinking teaser. I'm not thinking the line. I'm going, like when I saw Navy go down to 8, I made another bet, and I didn't lock it. I had locked Navy with Georgia Tech. Then I played Navy with Kansas City because Kansas City was my lock in the pros. But once the line went down to 8 and I could get it under 3, there was no doubt in my mind Navy -2 was going to win. So I bet them again. I'm all about the number. So if I see a line move, like even last week, Duke was a 2-point favorite to North Carolina. So I'm not touching the game. I don't want to bet against Duke. At the end, North Carolina was a 2-point favorite. I love Duke getting 8. So you can see from one to the other. That's why I like the dog when I get it, and that's why sometimes I bet it early, is I like the point spread, and I can see the point spread moving. So if I see the point spread moving the right way, I wait and let the spread move. If I see it going the other way, where my 8's now 9 or 10, I might bet it early. But if I see it go from 10 to 8 and I want to go 8 to 2, I'll let it drop and then I'll buy it. It's like buying a stock, right? You see a stock at 36 is dropping, but you want to pick it up at 35 and then watch it go back to 36. So I do that a lot with the football. So the line makes the lock. If Navy was 24 over Cincinnati, I can't lock the game. But at even 11, I was getting under a touchdown. I knew that was good. But once it hit 8 and I'm down to under 3, I mean, there's no question Navy was going to win. And they had, again, they should have won. They could have won by 18. And then Georgia Tech was 35-17, laying 1, and they fumbled the ball 4 times. And so they could have won 50-17. Anyway, so that's what I'm looking at. And the last one, Maryland's 32 in the Big Ten. The Big Ten's got a lot of defensive teams. They got a very strong team. Strong teams are a team that averages more than 35 points and gives up less than 21. So you got Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan. Minnesota's really close, and that's about it. Purdue was a strong team last week till Michigan got them. Their scoring average dropped, but Purdue's a very good team when they're playing the right team. So that's really what I'm looking for. That's really, college is getting confusing. It's getting like college basketball where it's not one and done, but it's 2 and done. So the guy maybe's a redshirt freshman, so he sits out the redshirt, like Winston at Florida State. Then he plays his freshman year and he plays his sophomore year. Now he should be playing quarterback till he's a senior because he's not ready for NFL defenses. And Winston will never be any good because he's not had enough exposure. Look at last week. He throws 3 interceptions against him because he doesn't know. He should have played all 4 years at Florida State. There shouldn't be a rush for a quarterback. Running backs I get. After 2 years, if you're good to go and you've got the moves, then go. But I don't like these guys that quit for the bowl games because they're worried about money. They shouldn't be playing. That shows no heart, no passion for the game, and I wouldn't draft anybody that did that. I don't care who it is. I think it's just wrong. It just shows you're a quitter, and I don't want a quitter on my team. I want a guy who loves to play, and he doesn't care if he gets hurt. I'd rather have Jake Butt at Michigan hurt his knee in the game than what's his name, Peppers, who sat out with a fake injury. And I didn't like he did it just before game time, and so if you tease Michigan, you got screwed by the guy too, which doesn't help. Anyway, so that's college football. That's a look at it. That's what I'm doing, and it's been very successful this year. I'm really hitting a lot of games where I'm just betting against the weak defenses, but I'm looking for the offense. But the other thing it does, there's so many teams, and you're like, Howard, why don't you just do the Big Ten, and because you're from Michigan, and maybe the Pac-10. Why don't you just focus on that? Well, I do, but there's always, you spot UTEP laying 47 a game, scoring 12. I want to bet against them as much as I can. I want to bet on Air Force as much as I, against an even opponent. There's San Diego State. I locked San Diego State a couple times last year and won easy with them. It's not hard if you can see the defense. Plus, you have a thing in your mind like Western Kentucky, who's been a really good team the last few years. The coach goes to Purdue. Now, all of a sudden, Purdue's not bad. It's the coach. But all of a sudden, I'm looking at Western Kentucky. Last year, they scored like 50 points a game and gave up 15. This year, they're scoring 23 points a game, giving up 20. Where did they go? What happened to their offense? The quarterback's still there. So all of a sudden, the coach leaves. So that's another reason I pencil in the new coaches. And then I pencil in, now I'm looking at, what's going on this year. So I'm staying away from Western Kentucky because they're not the same Western Kentucky they were. So I don't look at the stats when I'm telling you 2015 to 2017, the last 25 games, who's good as a home favorite or a home dog. I can't even pay attention to Western Kentucky this year because I know it's different. But So that's what I'm looking at. I go, yeah, UTEP's got the same coach. I'm mighty happy with that. And another thing with UTEP, their quarterback's out. Ryan Metz is out. And like I said, Oregon State's quarterback's out. So I've got the quarterbacks too. So I'm looking, and when they're out, I'm looking at the backup. And the backup on, Oregon State hasn't thrown a pass yet. So, how are they going to stand up against Washington? So that's what I'm looking for. It's all about the coach. It's all about the quarterback. It's all about the defense. So you got a weak defense going against a good quarterback. Last week it was East Carolina and Virginia Tech. So you got East Carolina, a weak defense with not much of a quarterback, going up against, or maybe that was 2 weeks ago, going up against, no, I think it was last week, going up against East Carolina, and and they put up a 60 on them. It might have been 2 weeks ago. They put up a 60 on them, and I think East Carolina made it a game for a half or something, and then Virginia came out in the third quarter with 35. But there's no way with the weak defense. What are they going to do? They're just going to let them walk up and down the field. The question is, can they keep up? And if you have a team with a decent defense, they'll get a few picks on them because they know they have to throw and they can blitz them. So that makes the big difference. So anyway, that's what's going on. Again, if you want to purchase, I've had some questions about PayPal. You don't need to be a PayPal member. It's just like going to Amazon and buying shoes or whatever. You put in your credit card information, you buy. Same thing here. You go to my site, www.teaserking.com. Go to the purchase picks. Click on it. Pick your package. Like I said, if you want the whole year, 40% off at this point. We've already played a few weeks. And if you just want the week, click on the week. Just put in your debit or credit card. Done. You paid. And off you go. So you don't need to be a PayPal member or have a PayPal account to use it. Just pop in your card information, and it's fully secured. You have nothing to worry about. So that's all you need to do. But there was one other thing. I've had questions about the site. I noticed the last couple days the site's been kind of freezing and going down, or some of the tabs not working. It's just I go through iPower as my service provider for my server. So my site's on a server, but it's not my server. You have to go through this company. So I go through iPower, and basically they've had some problems. So some of my tabs are freezing. I noticed I couldn't get in yesterday at times, and then I could get in. But all the tabs are working. The purchase picks, the history, the get the picks, the home. I even have a little definition of trends. And on my homepage I have customer feedback, which so you can hear from the customers that I make them money, and so I just put that on there. It's sort of like positive feedback. So anyway, if you have any questions, please email me, and go to the site. You'll get my email. Again, www.teaserking.com. Good luck. Again, we're taking Washington. We're taking the Air Force. Good luck, everybody. Have a great weekend, and let's go make some money.